For each person sitting here, these words may establish very different meanings. Why? Because you are the one within whose knowledge this transformation is taking place. You are witnessing the unfolding of your own knowledge. That is one activity, the act of knowing. These words that are being spoken are another activity. And at every moment, whether you are listening to these words right now, looking at me, looking at your wife, or looking at your children, each person sees according to their own vision, according to their own karmas, or in fact, they are simply seeing their own karmas reflected back to them, always. You are always knowing only your own karmas. In this world, there are only two, you and karma. Let me explain this with an example. A person with Samyak Drishti, right vision, experiences the same worldly activities in a very different way. Imagine a man who has not eaten for 4 days. He is sitting in silence. Now, 3 different people come and observe him. Person A arrives. He looks at the man and is shocked, oh my God. He hasn't eaten for 4 days, he is going to die. Filled with worry, he cries out, this man will not survive without food, something must be done immediately. So, he decides, let's tie his hands if needed, and at least give him glucose, because energy can only come from outside, from food. This is how person A interprets the situation. Person B comes next. He sees the same man and thinks, alright, he hasn't eaten for 4 days. That's fine. Let me cook something, prepare a meal, and offer it to him. Perhaps he will eat. His reaction is not as panicked as person A's. Then comes person C. And here, each person's response reveals how their own karmas and inner vision shape what they perceive. Then came person C. He said, oh, this man has not eaten for 4 days, but what's the big deal? I myself practice fasting regularly. If not daily, at least 10 times a year I keep fasts. Sometimes I do a 7-day fast, sometimes 4 days. Last time, I even completed a 21-day fast. So, there's nothing problematic in this. Even if he is sitting quietly without food, it is not a matter of concern. Here you can see 3 very different responses. One was full of panic, hi. The second, a householder, simply thought, alright, he will eat when he wishes, while the third said, there is no problem at all, I know people who fast for 21, 30, even 56 days. Now, imagine this is not just about 3 individuals, but about entire societies. One society is the kind where there is constant panic and anxiety, you are well aware of such a society. Another is the householder society, which you also know. And the third is the society of ascetics and fasting practitioners, which you are equally familiar with. These represent 3 different ways of seeing. But then comes a Samyak Drishti Jiva, a soul with right vision. This being does not belong to any of the 3 groups. The Samyak Drishti observes all these perspectives. And that knower, is you. Now the question arises, what options do you see? Who is right and who is wrong? The Samyak Drishti Jiva, when it sees, simply knows the karmas of all. Because such a soul rests in equanimity. It knows the one who is panicking, it knows the householder, it knows the one accustomed to fasting, because the nature of knowledge is to know. Wherever there is the glory of knowledge, there is only knowing. Just as when someone has the glory of Amitabh Bachchan, they constantly seek to see him, or if someone reveres Virat Kohli, they will look for him in stadiums. In the same way, for the Samyak Drishti Jiva, the glory is of knowledge itself, and therefore, there is only knowing. He will wear a t-shirt with a particular name on it, or something else. Why? Because wherever one places their reverence, that becomes their constant focus. If someone has reverence for knowledge, then it is knowledge alone that will be present at every moment. Now, when such a being sees person A, there arises neither attachment nor aversion. Where knowledge is, ignorance cannot exist. And what is ignorance? Ignorance manifests as attachment, raga, and aversion, dvi. It does not appear as, this man is terrible, which is aversion, or as, this man is so wonderful, I wish I could be like him, which is attachment. Notice carefully, even the thought, I wish I could be like him, is an option, and that option itself is attachment. But the Samyak Drishti Jiva, soul with right vision, does not generate even that. So, when he observes all three, A, B, and C, he sees their karmas. He perceives that person A comes from a background where people are accustomed to eating 4 or 5 times a day. Thus, when such a person sees someone who has gone without food or water for 4 days, panic, naturally arises. To the Samyak Drishti Jiva, this reveals the karmic conditioning of that soul. He understands that this person belongs to such a place, and if his life were to end there, then in his next birth he would once again be in a similar environment. As the disposition, bhava, is, so too will the substance, space, and time appear before him. At this stage, the Samyak Drishti Jiva does not yet possess avadhijnana, clairvoyant knowledge, but has mati and srutajnana, sensory and scriptural knowledge. Yet, because of the immense reverence for knowledge, there is certainty in knowing. So, he simply knows, without judgment of right or wrong. Each person is only knowing their own karmas, and can only know their own karmas. Now the question arises, is hunger really such a problem? If you see someone in pain, does pain truly exist? Does hunger truly exist? Pain exists, but only in perception, in karmic conditioning, not in ultimate reality. Hunger too exists in your own notions, in your own karmas, not as an eternal truth. It is an illusion, mithyatva. Illusion does exist, but it exists as illusion, not as reality. Thus, what appears as pain or hunger is only due to deluded faith, mithya shraddha. Through mati srutajnana, the Samyak Drishti Jiva understands the background of entire societies, their past, present, and even their next birth. For example, the second person is understood in this way, and the third person too, who practices intermittent fasting and other forms of asceticism. None of them are truly better or worse. From equanimity, the Samyak Drishti Jiva knows all three. He also perceives the monk who has been fasting silently for 4 days. He knows that this monk had taken a vow, I will eat only when a Samyak Drishti Jiva appears. So, when food is eventually offered, person A may think, he ate because I fed him. But in truth, the monk's resolve was bound to unfold, regardless of A's assumption. This shows how coincidences, sayoga, are mistaken for causes. Until now, whenever hunger arose, the coincidence was that food was eaten, and the thought of hunger disappeared. But eating was never the true cause of removing the thought, it was only coincidence. To break this illusion of causality, austerities, tapasya, are performed. One observes, the thought of hunger arises and eventually passes away on its own, even without eating. Thus, all along we were living in delusion, assuming food was the cause of ending hunger, when in reality it was only coincidence. This clarity is established fully only upon reaching the 6th Gwasthana, spiritual stage, where thoughts of food no longer arise. By then, one is certain, food was never the cause, it was always coincidence. And from here, we see that for the Samyak Drishti Jiva, nothing appears as right or wrong. To abide in equanimity is such a profound state that only from this Samyak Drishti can Samyak Jnana, perfect knowledge, manifest. And only when perfect knowledge manifests, can Samyak Charitra, perfect conduct, unfold. All the conduct we have practiced in past lives before this was not true conduct. All the conduct we have performed in the past was not Samyak Charitra, true conduct. Why? Because it was copied, imitated from society, borrowed by observing others. It was a kind of copy-paste. The real Samyak Charitra will arise only when there is first Samyak Drishti, right vision. If right vision is not present, meaning, if every person does not appear equal to you, if every circumstance does not appear orderly, if every transformation of reality does not appear the same, then Samyak Drishti has not yet arisen. And what is the nature of Samyak Drishti? That every manifestation appears perfect. Not right, not wrong, simply perfect. For example, a drunkard appears perfect, and a monk appears perfect. Why? Because right and wrong can exist only if the soul is actually doing something. But when you truly know yourself, you realize, I only know and see. I do not act. I simply know, see, and abide in bliss. Then, what do you see? You see that this pudgala, matter, what we call karmic matter, physical body, mind, energy, speech, breath, all of this is simply a flow of particles. This flow, these movements of the body, this speech, all of it is the movement of matter. It is just like the example of a river. Whatever flow is destined to happen, it will happen in its own orderly and sequential way. Everything is governed by Kramabada Parinati, sequential order of modifications. When you look at a piece of cloth in terms of space, you can divide it into smaller and smaller parts until you reach the tiniest indivisible unit that occupies space, called pradesa. When you look at any substance in terms of time, then it is called pariyaya, a modification. Time is always changing, every single moment. The smallest indivisible unit of time is samaya. And with each moment, modifications change, one pariyaya gives rise to the next, which in turn gives rise to the next. Thus, everything is happening in a perfect sequence. Nothing is disordered. Just as the river flows in sequence, so too the flow of matter, thoughts, and circumstances is perfectly sequential. You are simply the knower of that flow. Thoughts may arise, options may appear, but this itself is the practice, to know thoughts merely as thoughts, to know options merely as options, without ownership. Yet, ego arises, the sense of doership. You begin to feel, I thought this, or I did this great act. For example, you might think, I did a noble deed. When my father fell ill, I immediately took him to the hospital and arranged treatments. But when my mother was unwell, I failed to take her in time and she passed away. That was my mistake, my fault. But this time, I did the right thing, I took quick action, arranged chemotherapy, and saved my father. I did a good job. Notice here, it is not about whether a hospital is good or bad. The point is the subtle sense of ownership that creeps in, I did this. That very ownership, kartapana, doership, binds karma again.
Suppose you see a person drinking alcohol. His body is moving toward unconsciousness, but the soul itself never becomes unconscious. The soul is always fully aware. That is why it can recognize the very state of unconsciousness. In truth, the soul never drank alcohol. No soul ever drinks alcohol. What happens is that certain pajalic material particles associated with the thought of alcohol attach themselves to the soul. Or take another example. Sometimes people say an evil spirit has possessed someone, and such a person becomes violent, even a psycho killer. If you read interviews or listen to videos of real-life psychopathic killers, many of them confess, yes, I did those 4 murders knowingly. But then they add, the last 2 murders, I don't know how they happened. I wasn't under drugs, I wasn't in a trance, but somehow they just happened. I can't explain it. What does this reveal? In reality, he did not do even a single murder. The soul never commits the act, but he feels as though he did. The illusion of doership arises. Scriptures describe such states too. In some cases, they say Yeksha, a celestial being, takes over, as with the case of Arjun Mali, who was driven to commit murders under that influence. But not every case is explained that way. For example, Da Prahari is never said to have been possessed by a Yeksha. So what is the real meaning of saying a Yeksha possessed him? It means simply this. The soul itself did not do it. That certainty must arise. Only when you are established in the certainty that the soul never acts do you progress from the causal state Kravasta toward the great causal state Makravasta, and only then does Keval Jnana, absolute knowledge, manifest. Think about it. Some among you may once have eaten non-vegetarian food in the past, but now for years you have not touched it. Sometimes you might reflect and feel, that person who ate non-veg, that wasn't really me. Why would I ever eat that? Such a deep separation occurs within. This is the reality. When this separation dawns, it is called prayasiddha, true repentance. And this is the greatest austerity, tapas. The realization, why would I ever do that? The truth is, none of you want to perform these actions. You all go to your jobs, carry out worldly tasks. But what is really happening? Karmas are simply manifesting. Who among us does not long to remain in bliss always? Everyone does. Who would not wish for a condition where time itself disappears, where you lose all sense of hours passing, where for 24 hours you vanish into a state of pure joy? But when that is not possible, what is that impossibility called? It is called karma. Karma is simply that which manifests. Therefore, make the distinction. You are not the doer. Karma manifests on its own. Sometimes people think austerity, tapasya, means don't do this, don't do that. No, the real meaning is simply this. Keep the right disposition. When the 12 bhavanas, reflections, arise within you, they act like a parachute for liberation, moksha. For instance, take the reflection on impermanence, anibhavana. Recognize, everything is pudgala matter, everything is impermanent. Whatever you are hearing right now, do not try to memorize it. You don't need to hold on. If it's forgotten, let it go. You will relearn in another birth if necessary. In this life, just keep one deep feeling alive. I am the soul. All else is impermanent and will change. And when this vision settles in, then arises a state of equanimity, samadhibhava. True equanimity, samadhibhava, arises only after the attainment of right vision, samyak darshan. In that state, everything appears the same, neither higher nor lower, neither superior nor inferior. All is simply known as it is. When you recognize others, whether a particular religion, sect, or view, you understand they are only expressing the unfolding of their own karmas. Each soul is on its own unique journey. At this stage, the karmas that are meant to manifest in this lifetime will manifest. In the next birth, deeper insights may open. If they do not open, the soul may descend to lower states, such as hell. There, through suffering, understanding eventually arises. Slowly, gradually, the soul ascends again, beginning to act in better ways. All of this is orderly, because the pudgala matter is fixed in its function. The roles are already determined. It is fixed how many souls will attain heaven first, how many second, how many will remain in the middle world, and how many will attain liberation, moksha. For example, scriptures state that in every period of 6 months and 6 samayas, exactly 68 souls attain liberation. The moment one soul is liberated, another soul from the lowest nigoda enters the cycle of existence. The system is perfectly balanced, as described in the scriptures. Think about it. Have you ever seen the sun or moon move in a way that is not fixed? Their order is steady. In the same way, all of existence is orderly. No one is doing anything. Then why should we perceive one person as high and another as low? For instance, one person may serve you lovingly, like a mother, while another may speak harshly, making you feel like saying, "Get out." But when equanimity arises, that reaction no longer comes. Both situations feel the same, because both are simply the unfolding of past karmas. Their actions and words are nothing but the manifestation of their own karmic seeds. Even a single word spoken to you, whether praise or insult, is not from the person themselves, but from a rise of your own karmas. If someone says, "You have been meditating for years, yet you still get angry," what use is your meditation? Even such painful words are nothing but your past karmas ripening. Similarly, when someone praises you, saying, "You become so peaceful, so calm," that too is just a rise of your karmas. You need not do anything to make people speak differently. Their words are compelled by karmas. Even a mosquito that bites you does so only under the compulsion of karmas. The day those karmas are exhausted, mosquitoes will stop biting you. When your inner vision corrects itself, when you realize, "I am the soul that can never burn," then even toward the Agnikaya beings' fire-bodied souls, compassion arises. At that point, fire itself cannot harm you. For example, when Gashalaka hurled a fiery energy, Tejalesha, at Lord Mahavira, that fire circled around him and returned to Gashalaka because Mahavira had no karmas left to be burned. Similarly, Mother Sita entered the fire for her Agni Pariksha, Yet not a spark touched her, for the karma of being burned was absent. When Prahlada was seated in the blazing fire with Holika, the flames consumed Holika but could not even touch Prahlada, for his faith and inner state were pure. When karmas are absent, nothing in the world can touch you. No danger, no fire, no violence can harm the soul. Look around today. The world is full of dangers. On the road, a small steering slip or a stone on the path can cause an accident. Earthquakes can strike at any time. Yet despite so many risks, you are sitting here safe and unharmed. Why? Because until the karmas of harm arise, no harm can come to you. I arrived in Bangkok. Now, what are the chances of a flood happening? What are the chances of a meteor falling? What are the chances that while you are sitting in a forest, an animal might suddenly attack you? The truth is, if there are no karmas, then nothing can touch you. And if there are karmas, then even if you lock yourself inside a room, a snake will still manage to enter and bite you. In reality, we have no external enemies. The meaning of this is that whatever karmas from our past lives are destined to manifest, they will manifest, but only upon other karmas, not upon you, the pure soul. You remain untouched. As we understood from the example of Lord Parshvanath, experiences manifest on the body, but we are separate from the body. Even if the situation expresses itself in words or on the body, it is still only karmic manifestation. If there is no inner inclination or emotion, how can anything truly happen to you? That which is not in your perception cannot happen in your reality. So where does true perception begin? With Samyak Darshan, right vision. Samyak Darshan is a very profound state. In this state, there is no perception of high or low, no good or bad, no right or wrong. When one reaches this state, all desires end. What desires could remain? Even the desire to become a universal emperor, Chakravarti, will not remain. Even the desire to become a Tirthankara will not remain, because you will see even the Tirthankaras with equanimity. Their karmas are simply manifesting. They are not above you. They too are the same soul in a different state of existence. Their external condition will pass away too. At this point, there will be no wish to become a Tirthankara, no wish to become a Chakravarti. When desires dissolve, the deluding karmas, Mohaniya karmas, are destroyed, and along with that, all mental choices and fluctuations, vikalpa, end. This is when one reaches a state of nirvikalpa, desireless equanimity. Only then can true nirvikalpa samadhi, effortless absorption, manifest. Before this, samadhi cannot occur, because as long as desires remain, choices and mental movements will continue. Now consider the breath. As long as desires exist, your breath never flows completely throughout your body. Your breathing remains partial, restricted. Why? Because the remaining breath has already begun flowing into channels that are shaping the next body. That partial breath is fueling the process of future body formation. Through various channels, Shwesoswasvargana, Manovargana, and Vargana, subtle matter is constantly flowing. The mind itself is not inside the body but outside, connected through these channels. Thus, when the breath is only half flowing in your body, the other half is engaged in building the next body. This is why you cannot fully experience the present body, because you are constantly projecting into the future, creating the next embodiment. Wherever your desires lie, those very desires are shaping the future body. But those whose next body is no longer being formed are called Keval Nanis, perfectly enlightened beings. Why? Because their deluding karmas are destroyed, their desires have ended. They do not create a future body, for they live entirely in the present. For them, the breath flows fully, their presence is complete, and they remain unmoved and steady nishkamp. Fatigue arises in us because our energy is divided. Our attention is scattered across countless desires and future plans. Each of these is fueling the formation of a new body, so naturally we feel depleted and restless in this body. But when one is fully in the present, the breath flows in its entirety within the body. Energy becomes whole. This is what is called the awakening of Kundalini, the rising of complete energy through full presence in the now.